remember that you're not planning the event for yourself. You're planning it for other people to come and enjoy. Event planning. We're going to talk about it today. Here's the deal. Whether you're planning an event for your home or you're planning an event for a fundraiser, there are many elements that go into it that are exactly the same, and today that's what I'm going to break down for you. So my name is Ashley Tate. I'm a business consultant and nonprofit founder, and my goal with this channel is to share all things profit, purpose, and productivity so you can design a life and business on purpose and on your own terms. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is there are a few different areas of this video that I want you to be able to just know in advance. So first we're going to talk about pre-planning. We're going to talk about in the planning phase when you're actually getting things going. And then we're going to talk about your customer journey and your post-event planning. I have been doing events probably since I was in high school. Like my senior project was putting on a runway show for prom. So I have always loved events. I have not had any sort of training on event planning, but I do an event every year for the past probably, I want to say 4 or 5 years for my nonprofit that raises around 10 to 20,000 each time. Our last year was around 20, I think around 28. And so we were really excited about that. And so I just thought, you know what, I was invited to do a talk for high school students on event planning. So I thought it would be a great video to make for you guys. So here we go. Let's jump into this. So pre-planning. Got a little checklist down here so you guys can see me looking down. That's why, because I don't want to miss any spots because this is important. It's very important. All right, so pre-planning. So the first thing I would say to anybody that's going to be planning an event, especially if you're planning with other people, is to check your ego. And even if you aren't planning with other people, the idea of checking your ego is so incredibly important, because remember that you're not planning the event for yourself, you're planning it for other people to come and enjoy. And so you're responsible for essentially their fun, right? We want them to have fun. We want them to leave saying something about the event. And so you really need to be thinking about what is it that your customer wants? How would they like to see the event? What type of person are they? What are they into? Like if they're into rock and roll and you're giving them rap, I mean, just, you're not paying attention to your customer. So a lot of times people will do that when they're creating events. They will create an event that they really like, but not one that their customer enjoys. So check your ego. Second thing is, what's most important to you about this event? Like, why are you having this event? What is the purpose of this event? So if the event purpose is to raise money, then you're going to plan your event specific ways to make sure that you're raising money. If the goal of the event is to showcase fabulous drinks or fabulous food, then you're going to shape your event a completely different way. Like say it's at a house party or something, right? It really will just help frame the way that you're going to, number one, include other people, and also the way that you're going to approach setting up your event and for your customers too. So we'll talk about more of that. Be clear on your purpose. Do you want it to be fun and light? Do you want it to be serious and really imparting some information for people? What do you want people to leave feeling like and kind of leaving from that? Do you want them to feel like they were having a great time and everything was just light and that kind of sets the tone for the entire time? Or are you looking for, something else? It really does matter what the tone of the event is going to be. And all of this is within your pre-planning phase. I also say, now this is something that I do. You don't have to do this, but I think it's a great way to work things out before you start talking to other people about it. Before you talk to anybody else about your idea or what you're thinking about doing, I really suggest writing out your full vision of what it looks like to you. Because once you start to write it out, you'll see areas where something may or may not work, or you may see areas where you might need a little extra help. And it's easier to work with other people when you know how you would like them to complement whatever work you've already done and where you actually need their help. Because people are always wanting to help you, but if you don't know how to use that help, it can cause more friction than help on both sides. So write out your vision before showing anyone, and write out kind of like your why you're creating this event, because when you go to speak to people about it, you want to be able to include or take away ideas because you're very clear on the why of what you're doing. And it also helps them too, like when they're listening to the why of why you're creating the event, it's easier for them to kind of plug in their ideas and their input along the way. And this is especially important if you're somebody like me who works with a board. Maybe you have a board of directors for a nonprofit or or you're putting on something for a corporation and you're working with, maybe a committee or something, and you need to work with them to create the vision of the event that either they want or you want. It's good to just have everybody's ideas and their whys on paper. What do you want people to say at the end of your party? That's a great way. If you don't know exactly what you're looking to do for an event, a great place to start with that is to say, what do I want people to say at the end of the party? Do I want them to say, I'm so glad I donated? Or, wow, I never knew about these specific things, or wow, this organization really touched my heartstrings, or oh my God, I'm coming to this party next year. What is it that you want them to say? Everybody has a different goal of what they want, whether you're fundraising or you're throwing a party at your home. Like, what is it that you want them to say? That's super important, at least for me when I'm planning, to know exactly what I'm aiming for people to leave my home or my parties saying. Okay. How much money do you need to make after expenses? Now, this is mainly for if you're doing something for a corporation or you're doing something that you're trying to raise money for. It is important to have your bottom line amount of money that you'd like to make after expenses so that you can create a budget that can work backwards from that original amount. So if I know that I want to make $20,000 after an event, then I need to have either a certain number of ticket sales that I know I can spend $5,000 for the event and I need to make $20,000, and then I know that that's going to be a $25,000 event. So I need to set my event ticket pricing high enough so that I can either, one, get enough people to pay up to that price to make the $25,000 if that's your area of income, or do I need to get sponsorships to round that out so that I can make sure I make this $25,000 goal. So it's really, really important to make sure that you understand how much money you want to make at the very end of everything, not just at baseline. You want to make sure that after your expenses are taken out, you're left with that amount of money. Now we're going to move into the planning phase of event, because this is kind of where people usually start, but I think these pre-planning things are very, very important. Pre and post are very important. So then the planning phase, personally, I'm always going to tell you to start a year out because there are so many little things that happen along the way. It's just safer to start a year out. And if you can get vendors and anyone who's going to be a part of your event on board a year before the event is ready, you are going to be golden, especially if it's your first event. I would definitely start a year out and get commitments early, get people on board early, talk about it to your board, all of those things. And 6 months is okay too. Like after you've been planning for a while and you have an idea of how things work, 6 months is okay as well. But I always think 12 months is Then we want to know who are the key people that need to be involved to bring it to fruition. Now, the reason that this part is so important is because the people that are necessary, and that's why I say like you want to do this 12 months out, the people that are necessary are going to need time to think about it. They're going to need time to understand it. They're going to need time to process, right? So we want to get them as early as possible so that they'll say yes and that they want to be on board right away. Like when you're ready to start actually executing, they're already on board because you've already worked on that. Who are those key people that need to be involved to bring the event to fruition? So if you need donors or you need sponsors or you need vendors, like all of those people, what's going to be the crux of your event that if it doesn't happen, if you don't have these people, you don't have an event. So find out who those people are. Next, involve your team early and help them to see your vision, take their feedback. That's the part of like writing down your vision and your why, and then bringing it to whoever is going to be a part of this. So your board, generally, if you're a nonprofit or a corporation, generally there's some sort of board or committee that you need to talk to express the idea. You want to do that in this planning phase so that people are on early and they understand that they are a critical piece and they're important, their input works and their input is necessary. And there may be some hashing out back and forth. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is to start small and get that easy win. When you're starting out, don't try to do like 500 people at the event. Let your event grow. Start really small. Make it a little exclusive so that people will want to try to get into it. It sounds counterintuitive, but when you start small, it's much easier to win and it's much easier to have mistakes and it not ruin your reputation or ruin the reputation of the event for the next time. It's just an easier way to start. I know people want to get out there and just go crazy on a big event, but I'm never going to recommend that ever. I think if you start small, let those people go out and talk about your event. The next year, you'll get a little bit bigger. Let those people go out and talk. The next year, you never know, it'll exponentially grow. And that's exactly what happened with my event. I started with just 150 people, essentially 75 couples, and they went out and talked about it. Then it grew the next year to about, I don't know, I think we were at like 220. And then the next year we were at almost 350 people. Like, I was not expecting that many people, but we grew a lot more exponentially the next time we did it. So let it grow, let it evolve, let it evolve. Next thing is make sure you have your surefire ways to make money. You need to know if your money is gonna come from your tickets, if it's gonna come from the activities that are there, if it's gonna come from auctions, if it's gonna, like, you need to know exactly where that money's coming from. And I would focus a lot of that attention on those money-making activities, whatever they are. So we kept ours super simple. The first couple of years, it was just like your ticket is your donation. That was the amount for the event. That was all. And that was really helpful. I think people easily understood that. We didn't ask them for any more money once they got there. And the last event that we did in our fourth or fifth year, I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, our fourth or fifth year, then we added in more ways to donate that were authentic to us. You really have to understand the purpose of your event in your overall business ecosystem to make sure that you're doing this as authentically as possible. Otherwise, it feels like a money grab. And if you don't want to be recognized as someone who's putting on a fundraiser as a money grab, then you want to make sure that you really think about the purpose of the event and the reason that you're doing everything within the event to your customer or your donor. Think about ticket pricing for the value. So a lot of people want to say like, oh, I'm gonna do a $150 ticket. Well, what do you get for $150? Like, you should be asking yourself that. You can't expect people just to love your organization so much that they don't mind paying for something that they're not actually getting or that they don't find to be valuable. Always look at your ticket pricing in a way that is a value to your customer or donor. Ask around, ask people that support your organization, ask people who support whatever the event is that you're doing, and see what their feedback is. And ask people who are like your ideal customer. If you have beer drinkers, you're not gonna go ask a wine drinker if this type of ticket is worth it. They won't know what you're talking about. Always kind of be doing research to figure out what people want and what they're thinking, and then, take that in and go create your event from that. Expect the bare minimum. So really expect to learn during that first event when you're creating your first event. Use this as kind of a learning or like a practice event to see what goes wrong, what goes well. Be humble in this period because you never know. You might think you have an amazing concept and people might hate it. Or they may give you feedback to say like, hey, this wasn't great, that wasn't great, I didn't like this, it was too congested over here. Whatever it is, try to be open. And I know that's really hard because it's hard to take feedback sometimes when you've worked really hard, but it's the best thing you can do for your business, really. Okay, the next thing, take notes. Get feedback, check your goals, exactly what I just said. Do all of those things. Make sure that you add that into your process for everything. As you see people throughout the year, talk to them about that stuff. So just be sure to keep all of that in mind. Now, the next one is really fun because I feel like a lot of people forget this. So remember that anybody can put on an event, but what is like your wow factor? What's a thing that's gonna make people say like, oh, that was so fun because X? Something that's gonna surprise them that they didn't know was gonna be there. Like when you talk to people, you don't have to tell every single thing that's going to be happening in your event. Sometimes it's nice to have some sort of like wow factor that people were not expecting, because that is the element of surprise and the thing that they're probably going to remember the most because it is called a wow factor. So make sure that you try to think of something that's just going to be like a lot of fun that maybe people just aren't expecting. I hate to say this, but expect to lose money or to break even the first year. Like, go into your event with that expectation, because it's likely that that might happen. If you were running your organization lean and you were running it so that this event ran lean as well, that might happen, and that's okay. Don't bet all your money on your first event is what I'm trying to say. Use your first event as practice, and then on the second event, then you can start tweaking things and trying to make more money and making sure that you have all the elements in place that are really gonna help you build an event that's gonna be profitable. So in that first year, just anticipate breaking even. Just anticipate it, because it's probably gonna happen. And if you're not, then good, you can be like pleasantly surprised. That is a nice feeling to be pleasantly surprised, but just plan on making the best event you can this year and breaking even. I don't want you to lose money, because I feel like you might be on the side of irresponsibility, right, with these funds. And so we want to make sure that if you break even, that's fine, but try not to lose money specifically. Pro tip on the planning phase. If it's your first event, do not say first annual, because you haven't even done it for a year. So you don't get to say annual anything. Just say whatever the event name is called. Just say that. Don't say first annual. That doesn't really make sense. So anyway, the next year you can say second annual and so on and so forth, but don't use first annual. That kills me when I see that. All right, so now we're done with the planning phase. Now we're gonna move on to the customer journey. So with the customer journey, you wanna think about when my customer walks through the front door, whether it's your house or it's a party, like a corporate party or it's a fundraiser, when they walk through the front door, what's the first thing that they're gonna see and do and feel, and what's the vibe gonna be? That's what we always wanna think about, right? And it may not always come off without a hitch. You might have issues, that's fine. But I want you to think through what it is that would make things fun or exciting, or what are they gonna see, or like is somebody gonna be there taking their jacket, or what's happening? What's the deal? Is somebody gonna be standing there with a tray of little shots, or what are we doing here? Like, we want people to just see kind of like some of the details of your personality and of the organization's personality and of the party and the vibe. What are they gonna see? What are they gonna feel? Are they gonna hear music? What's the whole thing? So that brings me to this next step, which is write down the experience from start to finish. When we talk about your vision of the event, that's great. And we talked about them pre-planning. Things are gonna change as we go on. As you get more information, as you get people on board, vendors say, yes, I'll be part of it, sponsors, things like that. People will donate things sometimes. So how are you gonna use and put all these things into an experience for your customer? So that's a really important piece of creating your customer journey, right? We wanna make sure that they're experiencing things along the way, like that you're kind of keeping them engaged the entire time. It's very, very important. Build out your event program to avoid boredom. This is so important. I mean, I hate to go places and see people just bored and not know what to do. Even if you have to have like some games in your back pocket, just to say like, okay, just in case they'll play these games, or just in case we'll do this. Like, you wanna have different elements of things going on that people can occupy their time with. Just having an event where people just talk the whole time is nice if that's what they wanna do. You don't want people just standing around waiting. And those things still happen sometimes. I've had them happen at my parties too, but generally, like, I have a time schedule where I know this should be happening next, or by the time they're done using this part over here, they should be ready to move into X, like whatever. So it's just, you're coordinating the movement of your party, and that's really important. So it's good to have your social media hashtag, even if you're putting that out on social media like before the event, so people can start taking pictures before they get ready, and then posting to that hashtag. Generally, I'll do some promotion before the event goes. Of course, I'll be doing some promotion, and I generally will use the hashtag then. You can also have the hashtag on your invitation if you wanted to. If you're thinking that far ahead, that's fantastic. So that people can use that hashtag before, during, and after the party to post their pictures, to talk about what you're doing. And it's just a way to kind of help your organization be seen, okay? And your event being seen. The other thing it helps you do is you can aggregate all of those pictures and all of those posts for promotion for the following year, because what that allows you to do is click on the hashtag that you actually used, and then you'll see all the posts together, and then you can just screenshot, or you can take them off or share them, whatever you want to do. At least you can aggregate them because you have that hashtag for those of them that use that hashtag. Okay, the other thing is, put people in place. It could be friends, it could be family, it could be someone that you hire, but put people in place to actually capture the event. You want to put people in place to do that. So put them in place to capture your event. Really important. Pro tip, smaller spaces equal better perception, okay? Because a small space looks cramped and tight and people have to move past each other. You want to make it so, I mean, I did this last time, but it was like a little bit too cramped for my taste. Instead of going to get like a full ballroom, if you don't need a full ballroom and you don't have that many people who are going to be there, you want to make it into half that size. So half that size will still fit the same amount of people, but it won't look so big and separated. You know, I hate to see rooms that are like partially empty because someone was like overcompensating with the room size, but they don't have enough people. People want to be places where they feel like they are in the know and everybody's there and it's hopping and things are going. That's where people want to be a part of. And so it's really important for you to think about the size. Like if they say the capacity is 250 and you're only going to have 50 people, well then that should not be the space that you rent. You need to rent a space that's like for, 60 people. Or for 75 people, depending on if you're going to be putting furniture in there and stuff. So just think about the flow of your organization and go with the smaller space, not the larger space. Another pro tip that's huge actually that I see a lot of people do. Do not give your numbers. Do not ever tell people your numbers. Never tell them, oh, I'm going to have this many people at an event. Until you've done the event last time, you can say, oh, last time we had this many people at our event. I don't know how many we're going to have at this one. You don't tell your numbers and you don't ever show, I don't ever show my RSVP list. Like I never show, people don't have access to see who's all been invited or who's whatever. Okay, so, and do your invite list on different places. Like it doesn't all have to be on one spot unless you just really want it all to be there. But if you have everybody on different places, and then they can all buy tickets from one spot or they can all sign up to be there or whatever on one spot, that's fine. But use Facebook, use Eventbrite, use your text, use all the different modes that you have of communication to invite people and to get them to your event. Okay, post-event, let's talk about this and let's wrap this video up. So post-event, the most important things are, of course, thank everyone for attending, okay? That's like, it doesn't even need to be said. Next, share the pictures. Any photos that you get, share them. Hopefully other people will share them for you. Talk about your event. And then when you start planning again, start to share some of those pictures again to remind people like how much fun they had and what they were doing and blah, blah, blah. Like let other people see what the event was like, right? And then use Connection Collection to market and follow up. Now, I don't know why I wrote down Connection Collection, but basically, the point of that is get the emails from people. However you can get them, get those emails, put them on a newsletter, and at least when you're ready to, if you don't do anything else with it, at least when you're ready to invite those people again, you've got their emails and you know exactly what to do, how to reach them next time the event comes around. Because the biggest thing is a lot of people have to reinvent the marketing wheel again because they didn't get those emails. And the emails are the most important part of your event. They are the most important part. And then if you watch any of my videos, that I talk a lot about making sure that you get emails from people so that you can actually connect with them again. Your event should be a piece of your strategy, your overarching strategy for your business. There should be a reason that you are putting this event together, like why you're doing it in your business. Not just because everybody has an event or because everybody needs a fundraiser. It shouldn't be anything like that. It should be because maybe you don't want to ask. I can tell you our reason for starting a fundraiser. We didn't want our donors to be asked to pay for our administration fees. So we thought that it would be best if we put on a big event and then that we use those funds for administration. And when people donate, those funds go directly to a child. So it was a very clear delineation between creating admin fees for a nonprofit and then having our donors choose when they want to actually donate to a child separately. So it was a very clear strategy, a very clear piece of our strategy as to why we decided to create this event. and we kept it as minimal as possible and as lean as possible. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope that was super helpful. You now have your pre-planning phase, your planning phase, your customer journey, and your post-planning phase. And I will try to get this down in the description box, at least even if it's just a link to my blog so that you can actually download. I'm not gonna call it a worksheet, but if you wanna download this list of tasks. But these are the tips that I have for anyone who's starting a fundraiser or who's gonna host their first event. So I hope you enjoyed, I hope that helped you. I will see you next week. Get out there and unleash your something amazing, and goodbye.